Brother Ron, and welcome to We All Be News Radio and TV, the news-free Dixie for the 21st century.
It's too many distractions, Judge. We need some people to help us focus like yourself, help us stay on code and keep our eyes on the prize. But I got you on here because you called it actually early about the Kyle Rittenhouse. You was right on point about Kyle Rittenhouse
People get
getting
all
off.
upset, but even Trump said it 2 years ago. He said, you get out there and start rioting, and, it gets live. When you've got a riot going on, you've got a mob, all that stuff about deadly force goes out the window. You can go immediately to deadly force because even the strongest man can be ripped to shreds by a mob.
Mhm.
And reactions to mob have been long established. Let's just go back 55 years ago, 54 years ago. Kent State, the National Guard gunned down a white student mob. 5 or 6 people got killed. You got what happened when you had the mobs and riots in L.A. in 65 and 92, Chicago, Detroit, New York, Newark, all over the country. So I don't know why people are so ignorant of history that they think that what you see these clowns on CNN, Crying Negro Network, CBS, Columbia Broadcasting System, NBC, National Broadcasting Corporation, ABC, American Broad, et cetera. I don't know why they think that stuff is real, where they're smiling at them, and Kamala Harris is raising money to bail them out so they can get back and go do it the next day. Or what you got up in Chicago or Seattle, you got the same 180, 200 people getting arrested, bailing out, burning again, getting arrested, bailing out, and having a extended spring break where they can clown. And it's safe, it's not. So Rittenhouse was approached. The guy that survived got his bicep shot off, but when they got him to the hospital, he was armed with a firearm. So who knows what he was going to do. But when you got a mob, you don't have to wait. When they start being aggressive towards you and assaulting you, you can go immediately to use of deadly force, because there's a presumption that when a mob is after you, you are in danger of suffering death or serious bodily injury, and you may use deadly force. And black people have suffered badly at the hands of mobs for a long time. So I don't know why black people are mad at the verdict. I mean, there were no black people there. And the guy that they were protesting, well, let's get real. People don't want to be real anymore. You've got a knife, you're acting crazy, and you attack somebody when the police are there with the knife, and then you go after the police. Tragically, you get paralyzed when they shoot you. And see, the police only have the same rights that citizens have. Oh, wow. Okay. Let me go back to what I was
trying to black
doing.
you out, Judge. You speaking this truth.
No, what happened is I hit something and it went, and I'm listening to this. I didn't touch anything.
Right.
But what it did was go to the website for Buy the Sword. And before that, it went to the SIG website where I was shopping for some parts. So these things pick up what you're doing. They're AI, they're getting intelligence. So we're talking about weaponry. My iPad went to 2 weapon sites.
Interesting.
interesting. You know, you start talking about stuff and you get these ads popping up for the things you've been talking about.
So really, but there's no such thing as privacy anymore. We always
No.
being Big Brother's watching us everywhere.
Yeah.
We being
And
watched all the time.
for 230 years, people were trying to preserve privacy. And
Mm-hmm.
all of the little Generation Xers and all of that stuff, they want to upload everything to all 41 of their friends at the same time. And it's some picture of them in gaudy clothes at some place they really didn't need to be. So there you go. You have rights, and the fools are trying to give the rights away. Facebook has gotten almost 3/4 of the American population identifiable by their facial recognition algorithms. And Facebook's saying they want to cut it back, which is BS. They're not. So, you know, it is what it is. It's tragedy. You have rights and you give them away. You have a system. The system's not perfect because it deals with people.
Right.
The legal system, the Constitution, as they are now, nothing's wrong with them. It's just like rule book for a sport. And the outcome is determined by the plays and the players. And in order to play the game, you have to understand what the game is. You have to have an aptitude for playing the game.
That's right.
You got to learn the rules, and then overlaying the whole thing is human nature. And human nature is what it is. And at base, you have to get ready for this one truth. The game,
That's
the
right.
rules, the nature of the beast is that you're dealing with the apex predator on the planet Earth, and it is the most profoundly efficient killer that Mother Nature has invented in the history of this planet.
That's right.
Lions kill each other, tigers kill each other, panthers kill each other, wolves kill each other, bear kill each other, and the top predator kills itself too when there's wrong kind of competition. And the way we have developed, the method we have developed to prevent that from getting out of hand is called masculinity. And for the last 55 years, some damn fools have been trying to emasculate the country and the black community in particular. All of this violence we're seeing in Memphis is a direct result of the hood having become a matriarchy. And too many of these thugs and hood rats are just bitches with dicks. They're
Actually, but I
effeminate.
won't get. Yeah, we
They
definitely gonna
don't
get
have
into
masculinity. See, let me just add this and I'll fast move on. Masculinity is about dedicating yourself even to death to making where you are a better, safer, more secure place filled with economic prosperity, sense of purpose, ethics, and morality. And we don't have that. And masculinity can be acquired by somebody who is a grown person, but it works best when you start teaching that boy as he's crawling around in the crib masculinity and doing it all day long, every day, 24/7, 52. But we don't do that anymore because, oh my God, someone may have fluid gender and we have to accommodate them. And they, you know, their feelings, and boys and girls should be protected from bullies. And that's the job of the parents and the teachers and the police. And they shouldn't have to put up with this. And oh my God, online bullying. Oh, that's some crap that produces a bunch of sissified punks. And then when you start telling the boys they can put on dresses and skirts and crap because, oh my God, they identify with being female, they have fluid gender. You get all kinds of garbage. See, it's about when Titanic 2 goes down, are there going to be any more men who stand up and say, ma'am, you and your child get my seat on the lifeboat and I'll drown in the freezing water.
Yes, sir.
That's rough. Doesn't come
I got to ask you, because I know you speak about Spartan mothers all the time. We need more Spartan mothers, but will you classify Kyle Rittenhouse mom as a Spartan mother? Yeah, will you classify his mom, Kyle Rittenhouse mom, as a Spartan mother? Why would
I
she
don't
put a
know.
child
I haven't seen her.
in a danger zone
he
like
was
that?
a young man. He wasn't an adult. He was 17. And he went there from out of state, like most of the people who were there to protest police community matter were from out of state. And he was at this auto dealership next door to an auto parts place, and they had burnt the place down. And the guy that survived, who got his bicep blown off, who was armed with a firearm himself, he had already set something on fire, according to the state, earlier in the day, and had some outstanding warrants for domestic violence. Now, I don't know why the DA didn't do what he was supposed to do and charge that survivor with murder in the perpetration of a felony. Arson is one of the designated felonies in that state. Treason, kidnapping, rape, burglary, assault to commit murder, aggravated assault, they're triggering felonies. And the guy was committing an aggravated assault on Rittenhouse, at the very least, or assault to commit murder, because he was armed with a deadly weapon, continuing a felonious episode of rioting by a mob that refused to disperse. And he personally had committed an act of arson, allegedly, earlier in the day. So he should have been charged with murder in the perpetration of a felony. It's like if some people go into a liquor store to hold it up, and an employee of the liquor store or the owner or the manager or a bystander engages in the gunfight with the robbers, and some innocent person is killed, a bystander is killed, or one of the robbers killed. The murder is attributed to the people who perpetrated the underlying felony that started the mess, not the bystander and not the owner, not the employee. He took a politically correct dive, and it's detestable. The boy never should have been charged. And the judge ran a good trial, unlike what you saw in the Dr. Cosby matter, which was a farce. That fool was an embarrassment to the judicial profession. But this guy, this judge, he ran it right. He kept control of the courtroom. He got on the prosecution when they got out of line, and they did quite a few times, and he did what he was supposed to do. I had no shame at what I saw, but what I do have a shame for is the abysmal ignorance of the population that is unaware of their laws and how riots and mobs have been treated for a long time. And by the way, this matter was not white and black, and black folk didn't have a dog hunting in this, other than the fall over on, hey, Rittenhouse was in the position of a whole lot of black folk when they have been confronted by mobs. And if you want to talk about, well, he came from out of state. Well, look, just because you got Al Sharptons and Jesse Jacksons and Martin Luther Kings that came out who chose to be disarmed and non-violently responsive, doesn't mean they did anything that Rittenhouse did not do, or Rittenhouse did anything they didn't do, other than he had the sense to arm himself for a potentially hostile situation. Oh, these people aren't being oppressed. There are no black folk that are involved in oppression in the Rittenhouse thing. This is white people. White people got shot. White person did the shooting.
It's white on white crime.
A mob riot scene.
It's white on white crime,
Were
Judge.
opposing it.
It's a white
And
on
by
white
the
crime.
way, see, learn history. Everybody knows about the gunfight at the OK Corral.
Right.
All right. How many people know that the Earp brothers, that includes Wyatt Earp, Bat Masterson, and Doc Holliday, went on trial for murder after that? They got acquitted.
I mean, there's a reason why Wyatt Earp never took a gunshot wound. He
Yeah.
always shot first, right? You
Yeah.
know,
And see, the law
shoot first,
is
ask questions
in
later.
most, there are only 8 states that had a retreat doctrine written into their self-defense. That was up in New England. It doesn't work. The jury instructions go way around the corner to negate that. So in other words, a man's walking with his old mother or his wife or his family. Somebody comes up and does something to kill him. Under those states, he's supposed to turn around, play coward, and run, and let the bad guys get a hold of his family. But to accommodate human nature, they have stuff that they tell the jury. The defendant had a duty to retreat before he was authorized to use deadly force. However, if you find that he made any effort to retreat, such as raising one heel as though to pivot and retreat, or rocked backwards and changed his body balance as though to retreat, that suffices. But that's just crap. So
Judge,
42 out of the 50 states do not have a retreat doctrine. Tennessee doesn't formally state it in a statute. But every time I read a self-defense instruction to a jury, it included, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the defendant had no duty to retreat. He may stand his ground. And the only reason we got that bad thing on stand your ground is because this jackass on CNN, Anderson Cooper, who was anti-gun, put it out there that the Castle Doctrine and stand your ground were why Trayvon Martin got shot by Zimmerman. Actually, the tragedy of it is this misinformation, this lying propaganda to support his anti-gun agenda is put out and believed. And you know who had the right of no retreat? It was Trayvon Martin. You know who had the benefit of stand your ground? It was Trayvon Martin, not Zimmerman. You know who did not have anything, well, there was nothing to do with Castle Doctrine because it wasn't inside a house. The Castle Doctrine came in because there are cases like, okay, there was a home invasion. The invader was armed. The homeowner on the second floor heard the break-in, got his pistol. He's standing at the top of his stairs, guarding his family. The breaker, who's armed with a gun in his hand, coming there to kill somebody. He's at the foot of the stairs. They both shoot at each other. They both miss. The guy that broke in fell and broke his leg. So he sues the homeowner. Of course, Castle Doctrine. You break into somebody's house. Oh, come off. Get off of it. People have
but
had
Joe, that's a good question.
My father taught me to shoot when I was 6 years old.
But why would his mom put him
the,
in that situation, though, Judge? I mean, would you
the,
put your
I
as a
know that,
parent?
but the point is,
Would you put your son? I'm asking you as a parent, though. Would you put your son if they was underage in that situation? Take them to a war zone, a hot zone, to play cowboy or to play deputy?
well, civic responsibility. How many people do you see in all of these black and white films of the civil rights movement? They've got their underage children there, teaching them to get out on their knees and pray while some damn fool beats them across the head until some other ones feel guilty about it. What the hell is the difference?
I hear what you say, Judge. You make a great point. Well, I got to ask you this, though, Judge, about the medic who got his bicep shot off. He did admit to having a gun, but he said he was not trying to point at Rittenhouse.
To the hospital.
He said he wasn't trying to point at Rittenhouse, but he did have a gun out.
He's gone. He's armed. And
but he said he was a medic to try to help. He said he was an arsonist.
Grabbing somebody who
he was trying
at
to
that point is just armed. and in that state, that's legal.
What about, okay,
Maybe
but Rosenbaum, the
minor,
first victim.
but he's legal. And by the way, let's take Tennessee. Tennessee says that it's illegal for a minor to possess the firearm without supervision. But even if he illegally possesses the firearm, if he is entitled to engage in defense of his life, even if he is illegally possessing, he may use the firearm.
But Judge, the first victim, Rosenbaum, he was not armed. He just had a bag of stuff. He was homeless, living with his fiance at a hotel. He just threw a bag of stuff at Cal and he shot him
And
anyway.
he should have been home. He's breaking the law.
But he's homeless, Judge. He just had he was, they say he was homeless and bipolar.
And he's participating in.
Well, his fiance said she didn't know why he was down there. He had mental issues.
I know,
though.
but the point is look, if you are an ordinary, decent person, and somebody sits upon you, it doesn't make any damn bit of difference to you whether he's crazy or he's sane. He can kill you.
Yeah.
And he's in a mob. You don't know. The other thing is get over it. It's the law, and the law got applied, and there was no violence to justice or the law or evidence or procedure. You saw due process. That's how it's supposed to work. Just because all you have been familiar with is garbage that CNN et al. Put out there trying to get you to boost their ratings.
But Judge, you don't think that the white men were treated like black males are treated in the just us system? Like they use his like they say he had a sex with a minor, the Rosenbaum character.
Young brother. If you check around here in Memphis over the last 50 years, you'll find that attorney Joe Brown defended some people who were in a riotous situation successfully, black on black. Generally, it's when somebody got to acting a fool at a concert or something like that, or something that went down wrong out in the hood or at one of these parks that are now closed down, amusement parks. I've presided over such matters as a judge a time or two or three or four or five or 10, where the same situation happened. It works whether the defendant is black or white. There's a caveat. You got to have a good defense lawyer. And everybody that you hire to defend you is not worth a damn as a defense lawyer. Also, every judge out of the 10 trial judges, criminal trial judges you have in Shelby County, not every one of them should be on the bench wearing a bat cape. And the DA in Shelby County ain't worth a damn, and that's a racist somebody up there who is biased, prejudiced, and a crook, and has personally been held accountable for prosecutorial misconduct personally more than any DA's office in the United States has been held to account collectively. And guess what? Those judges are elected. That DA is elected. And we don't do a damn thing about it. The mayor, who is a jackass that we've got in right now, Strickland, nominated the first chief of police that has been nominated in 40 years because the chief of police is civil service for life for good behavior. Instead of having a director who's subject to political control. The black majority city council approved somebody that got fired from Atlanta for corruption and was under investigation in North Carolina for corruption. So we did that. We elect these people that do this to us. They had a guy named Joe McCarty, Division 8 Criminal Court. He was a former Grand Dragon of the Ku Klux Klan. In West Tennessee, chairman of this White Citizens Council. And because he paid the money to the Ford folk and got on their ballots and everybody else's sample ballots without a picture, black folk, too damn lazy to pay attention to who's running for judge and checking out their records, they'd get the handout ballot and vote for him. And he got the black bloc vote every damn time he ran. He got forced to resign because for the first time, some lawyers went through the process of being qualified for jurors. Usually that was a blanket exemption. They complained because this clown was telling 4,500 people he was qualifying for the main jury panel that if a defendant didn't take the stand, it was because he had a long criminal record and he was a guilty person. And your right to remain silent was just a technicality. See, that's who we elected. His replacement is Chris Kraft. And Chris Kraft is not any good thing for the black community. So you have 1, 2, 3 folk down there who try to be decent out of the 10. One of them retired a couple of 3, 4 years ago and just recently died of brain cancer. He's a white guy. He was an exception to the rule. And now you got some racist former prosecutors who are fairly young as judges, and they get the black bloc vote. And by the way, it's a county-wide election, and white people are only 28% of the registered voters in Shelby County, 19.1% of the registered voters in Memphis. And look what we get. So whose fault is that?
I mean, a lot of us don't know the game.
So don't complain about the system is just us. And how many fools still call me up and start at, Judge, how do I get out of jury service?
I hear what you say, Judge, but Judge,
I don't want to hear it.
But Judge, the thing about as a parent, I mean, so you think Cal Rittenhouse was just innocent across the board? He did not deserve any charge.
Legally, he was innocent. Everything that happened was what was supposed to happen. The riot, the mob, sometimes civil disobedience is what it is, and there is some merit to it because people put their lives and physical safety on the line to protest. Yes, when you're out there, you're not supposed to be safe because you're doing something against the public peace, dignity, and order, and you've been told to disperse. And as far as Rittenhouse being there as a minor, I look at the 6, 7, 8, 9, 10-year-olds I've seen brought to many a demonstration by their parents. Same thing. I look at 17-year-old kids get gunned down at Kent State, Ohio State University's campus up in Ohio. I had a good friend whose son wound up going to that university. And he got caught up in a demonstration, got arrested. I loaned the man some money to help hire a lawyer. He wasn't but 17. He was an advanced young black student. He graduated from high school at 16. Smart kid. He did what he was doing because of good reasons. But that doesn't mean there are no consequences. If you're doing something where there are no consequences possible, you haven't done anything. That's just going for a walk in the park.
I want to ask you this because you are also a former prosecutor. What would you have done as a prosecutor in that case to get something to stick? What would be your strategy? I wouldn't have brought it. You wouldn't even try it?
I wouldn't have brought it.
Wow. Okay.
And by the way, I always felt guilty about being a prosecutor, but I always tried to make sure there was justice. And when I was the first black prosecutor for the city of Memphis, I'd be getting ready to give somebody an offer. I'd have to go check their records, and I'd see stuff on their records where there really was racism. In other words, quote, reckless eyeballing by colored person. 4 convictions. What the hell is reckless eyeballing? Colored person refusing to remove from sidewalk for passage of white person. That was a crime. So I'm looking at this, or this one, maybe they need to resurrect. Quote, acting too colored in public. And I'm
That's deep right there, Judge. You saw that come across your desk a lot of times.
Yeah, and I'm saying, what in the world is this crap? And I'm from L.A., I just gotten here. And I'm looking at this garbage. acting too colored in public, you have to laugh because you got a mental image of it. But to make that a crime,
Wow. This is why we got to help. That's why we got to pick your
refusing
brain,
to
Judge.
remove from sidewalks so somebody white can go by. See, today it ain't rough. It is nice and simple and easy. What I'm looking at is the unfortunate consequences of a lot of humans living in crowded conditions with each other, with a circumstance in the background, which is you're trying to kill off masculinity, and you've been doing it for 50 years. So the boys don't know how to behave as men when they grow up. That has nothing to do with white and black. But then there is a human characteristic called xenophobia, fear or dislike of the unknown or the strange. And racism is but a form of xenophobia. Okay. So I'm looking at people act like humans in close proximity where there's no mile and a half between you and the next human on a frontier or in some agricultural area. Stress is a bitch. And I look at a lot of people whining about life, not recognizing the trend for over the last 50 years to give everybody a participation ribbon. You know, nobody wins. Everybody protects you. You don't have to learn to develop the courage, the human bravery to bust this bully right in his mouth, even if you get your butt whipped as a result. At least he's felt the pain. He doesn't want to go through that anymore because he couldn't eat the will. He might have lost a tooth or something. So where are we going to man up and get it together and start talking about it's your responsibility, not the police, to keep order where you live. It's your responsibility as a man to provide for your family, not running around trying to play gold digging boy, trying to find some chick to hustle up off of. It's your responsibility to take care of those you brought here, not brag about how many outside babies you have that you don't pay a dime for and support.
Well, I got to ask you this, Judge, about this Ahmaud Arbrey. I don't want to call it the Ahmaud Arbrey trial, but compare and contrast with the Cal Rittenhouse situation. What's your take on this trial concerning the guys who killed?
One thing people need to understand about criminal trials: the defense attorney tries to do what's best for the defendant. If it's a black defendant, you try to get as many sympathetic blacks as you possibly can on the jury. If it's a white defendant, you try to get as many sympathetic white jurors on the jury as you can. I've tried a bunch of white folk. In fact, I had the experience where rich white folk would hire me to represent, doctors, lawyers, businessmen. White preachers would hire me to represent some of their people when I was still practicing law. So if I got a white defendant, I'm getting as many good old white boys as I can on that jury. Damn the fact I'm not trying to get black jurors when I got a white client, unless it helps. And then sometimes you want just a certain type. Like I had a certain first-degree murder case that was tried four of the co-defendants were tried in front of this racist I talked about that was former head of the Grand Dragon. Head Grand Dragon and the head of the Citizens Council. Well, I got him mad at me, so he thought he was doing me a disfavor of transferring it out his court, and I got a fair judge. The other three are still on death row, and my client's walking around a free man. But what I did is his daddy was a preacher. So I selected a juror of old women, white and black, who liked to go to church every Sunday, and they were over 50, 45 anyway. And I even had a couple of white women on that jury who were Southern Baptists, but they liked to go around and listen to some fine brimstone from a black preacher. And he was a tall guy, like 6'4", and women thought he was good looking. And he always wore suits, and he was vine down with a watch. That was the only bling he had on, and shine shoes, and had a hat in his hand when he came in the courtroom. So my client had no criminal record, so he could testify. So I made sure that I got all of these church-going women up in there, white and black. I had 11 women on the jury, one guy.
Mm. But what do you think about them trying to
Wait a minute,
suppress?
let me
Yeah,
get to
okay.
the punchline.
All right.
The witness for the state was a prostitute. She was trying to get the reward.
Yes, sir.
And she came up in there with a little bitty micro minute with her fat thighs throwing and showing. And she crossed her legs up in front of this mostly all-woman jury. So in final argument, it was one of my briefer arguments. I said, you saw this lady came up in here, a prostitute, a hoe, self-admitted. And she tried to flash them big, fat, bare thighs like you were supposed to be impressed. I said, but you saw that gentleman walk in and out of the courtroom, and you heard my client testify as to who that person was.
Mm-hmm.
And the question boils down to this: who you gonna believe, a hoe or the son of a preacher man? Defense rest. They stayed out about 25 minutes and came back with a not guilty verdict. And the other three sitting up on death row. See, the other three had white lawyers, and they were trying to get they were trying to get all black jury. I was trying to get an all female church going jury for my client. Because when I asked my client on the stand, who is that distinguished looking gentleman walking in and out of the courtroom? That's Reverend so-and-so. He's my father. All the women said, oh. I said, oh, we won this one. The son, you gonna walk. See, that's how you do it. Now, see, we have a new kind of defense lawyer. They get out of law school. They take advantage of advertising. They have good business acumen. Somebody's financing them. They have lost the art of law as a profession and turned it into a business. I used to get them in my courtroom all the time. They'd walk in with 10, 15 clients in my courtroom on a given day. And as soon as I told people they needed to go get a lawyer, they'd run out and get him, get his card. But you see, he'd been out of law school 6 years. And I remember this one case where the defendant said, I'm not going to trial. I wasn't even in Memphis on that day. I got an alibi. I'm not going to plead guilty. And he didn't know what to do because he never tried a case. But he had lots of clients. Now, I advertise for lawyers and law firms in other states, but I vet them to see what kind of reputation they have and what they do in the courtroom. And if they do well in the courtroom, fine. But you see, we have too many lawyers now. The market is glutted, and these people have not had an internship and a residency in the DA's office or the public defender's office. And quiet is kept. In a lot of cities, you get much better representation by the public defender's office than you do by private counsel. Like, let's take Judge Tariq Sugarman here in Memphis. He's judge now. He was the part-time PD in my courtroom over a 10-year period. He had 64 jury trials over that 10-year period, which is a lot more than somebody just in private practice would have. But he had 61 outright not guilty verdicts. He had one of those not guilty verdicts had been a mistrial. That was case 62, was a first-degree murder case. And 2 of those 64 verdicts were guilty verdicts, but the jury found the defendants he represented guilty of misdemeanors, maximum 1129, whereas the minimum offer that he could get if they had pled guilty was 10 years on felony. So they had time served. So he won all 64 cases. That was the best in the state. And people would, I don't want no public defender, and they had him, but they got rid of him and hired some jackass that had never been in front of a jury. And they went to jail. I remember one time the public defender said, Your Honor, may we approach you? State coming up, you coming up? Okay, fine. What was the matter? The state was announcing that they were going to drop the charges on this defendant. And the public defender was saying, I want the man to pay costs so jeopardy attaches. Fine. This private lawyer walked in and he said, well, the family hired me to represent him. I said, okay. So we don't get any complaints. I gave him a 2-week continuance to familiarize himself with the case. This fool walks up and he's going to cop the man out to 5 years. I refused to take it. And I embarrassed him. I said, the public defender and the state have already announced when you came in and took over this man's representation that they were going to drop the charges. Now you're pleading him out to 5 years. The court's not going to allow that.
Wow. So I'm going to ask you this. Yeah. So your story, your antidote, your story you told was amazing about the jury, the importance of jury selection. But what was your take on them trying to deny black pastors from attending the trial down in Georgia?
What that is I've done that myself. Excuse me.
Okay.
We are having a fair trial. Now, the Constitution of the United States and that of Tennessee guarantees the defendant a public and speedy trial, so nothing secret goes on up in here that should not go on. But this court is not going to tolerate the audience making faces at the jury and trying to get their attention and act like they are trying to intimidate anybody. And if the court sees any more of that, somebody's instantly going to spend some time back there. Deputy Williams or Deputy Officer Duckett, would you see if your key works in lockup? If it does, the first somebody I point to, you take back there. And then see, stuff goes on like this. You never can tell what's going to happen with a trial. I remember one murder case, a black senior chief petty officer killed a gunny sergeant, white, out in Millington. And they didn't want it going in front of the jury. And JAG and the base were asking if it could be a bench trial just in front of the judge. I acquitted the guy. And the father of the victim walked over, and I'm getting ready to high sign one of my deputies to keep something from happening. The white father stuck his hand out and said, let me shake your hand, sir. You did what you had to do. I told that damn fool somebody was going to kill him one day if he didn't stop. Okay. Next thing, commercial appeal 3513 were all in the courtroom, and the family wanted blood because the defendant should fry in the chair for killing our baby boy and all of this. So the jury's deliberating. They come back with a question. You know what the question was? Your Honor, if we feel that the victim deserved killing, do we have to convict the defendant? I said, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, thank you for your question. You are advised that you are to refer to the written instructions contained in your trial jacket, and you may continue your deliberations and return such verdict as truth and justice dictate, if you are able to do so without violence to individual principles. They found him not guilty of first-degree murder. They found him not guilty of second-degree murder. They found him, they deadlocked on manslaughter. So they let the guy cop out to 3 years, and they had no opposition to probation. You see how that works?
Yes, sir.
Everybody's out there hollering for blood.
Well, at least they were civil about it. It wasn't like a lynch mob rule type of thing. They actually asked your permission or perspective. In our
courtroom.
Yeah.
And that fool that tried Dr. Cosby was letting the lynch mob get in his courtroom.
Right. I gotta ask you this.
I say fool because that was embarrassing. His wife had an interest in that case.
There you go.
He shouldn't have let that DA come in there who was using it as a political football after one DA, head DA, has said, we're granting him immunity from prosecution because we've investigated and there is no case. And then the other one say, no, we're going to dishonor that. Hell, you can't do that.
Well, actually, like the Cosby, they gave him the civil lawsuit that he settled. He shouldn't have been no case at all, no criminal case. But is Cal Rittenhouse? You think he's open to civil lawsuits? Has this opened him up
I
to
don't
civil
know. He
lawsuits?
could. But see, pragmatically, forget all those TV judge shows. We did a
Okay.
disservice to the community. One of the problems is that your legal cost and attorney fees may far exceed what you can get from the defendant because he's judgment proof. He doesn't have any money.
But can Cal sue the media how he was portrayed? Can he sue the media, these corporations?
No,
Media
because New York Times versus Sullivan. He's a public figure.
okay.
He can't sue the DA's office because of sovereign immunity unless the DA's office got way out of line. So a lot of times you're stuck. These judge shows got everybody thinking that, yeah, I got a grievance, I can go. And see, the shows would always guarantee that whatever the judgment or the award was would be paid.
Well, man, I'm gonna ask you about the Astroworld tragedy down in Houston with Travis Scott. Can people still file lawsuits if they take the refund? If they got their money refunded, can they still file lawsuit against
Yes,
the people that
unless
organized the
there
event?
is a settlement that's contained in the refund. Usually when you print out the check, it says this is in settlement of all potential and future claims, etc., from the individual concerned, his heirs, assigns, etc., 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 successors and contractual relationship, blah, 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 blah. And see, they're talking about suing the artist, but what does the artist have to do? He was just talent, and the people who would have the liability, the ones who put the thing on. And then, there are all kinds of other things. One other thing, too, in the Rittenhouse case, I've heard this brought up. The police knew who he was. And there is a strong argument that defense, I didn't hear them raise it, but I might have, which was when the police, being aware of Rittenhouse being there over the course of several hours, he brought them food and water, and they stopped and spoke with him because they did not demand that he leave. They de facto deputized him. See, here's something most people don't understand about American law. The primary source of public peace, dignity, and order resides with the citizens, not the police. See, when the Constitution was written, it would be 60 some years before they invented police. See, police were invented in England at Scotland Yard in about 1843. The first American police, based on the Scotland Yard constables, constabulary, they did not come into existence except on the East Coast in the 1850s. We had marshals who were federal officers, and we had sheriff that were old common law office holders. And what happens is that there is a posse comitatus, which consists of the citizenry. That's what they were talking about. The militia. See, when the Constitution was written, the militia was a term of art like the body politic. And that consisted of all able-bodied men, all able-bodied males between 15 and 60. And they had an obligation to arm and meet for the common defense. So everything that happened law enforcement while, the only formal organization was when the sheriff would deputize people. And essentially any law enforcement person with the sheriff or the district attorney or a judge can deputize someone. So there was an argument that Rittenhouse didn't raise, but I actually did once or twice. The police deputized this man. We've got a Tennessee case that went to the Tennessee Supreme Court there was a riot. There was a mob. And there was a homeowner, and it was a question of whether or not he was black. He was standing on his front porch, and there was a plainclothes white cop standing in the street. And the cop told the homeowner, get back inside the house. He said, go to hell. Well, the white cop whips back his coat as though to go for a gun, and the homeowner shot him to death.
Mm.
And one of the issues was whether or not this guy was passing for black. And one of the issues was the riot was going on because some people didn't want black folk living in this neighborhood. So the state Supreme Court said, even though he was mistaken in his belief that this person was a rioter or a member of the mob, it makes no difference, because as long as he had an honest belief that he was in jeopardy of suffering death or serious bodily injury, he could apply deadly force. He did not know that the person was a cop. So he's a black man.
You know, in Cal Rittenhouse, I'm thinking about what you're saying, Judge, because if he really was berserk, he wasn't shooting up everybody. He didn't kill a whole bunch of people. He killed folk. He killed people or tried to kill folks that engaged him in some type of way. And then when he saw police, he was willing to give himself up. So to me, when you say all that,
that's where he was headed.
yeah, but I'm saying he know what he did. He was willing to, like, I'm in trouble, right? So I'm saying that to me, I can see why he got off. I can see why he got off. I know it's messed up that people. I know his mama brought him there, but I can see why they.
In other words, if you are in a mob situation and the mob looks like it's after you, and a member of the mob grabs you,
right,
you might be very reasonable, even if you're mistaken as to all of the circumstances, if you have a reasonable belief that you are in jeopardy of suffering serious bodily injury or bodily harm or death, even if you are mistaken as to the circumstances, because a mob per se is a violent organism.
Mm-hmm.
If there's a riot going on or breach of the public peace by the mob, or they have refused an order to disperse, you are effectively put on notice that if they turn on you, you may suffer serious bodily injury or harm or death.
Because the second guy hit him with the skateboard one time, and he trying to go for his gun. So
what's a skateboard?
Yeah, anything could be a weapon though. Anything could be used as a weapon.
Skateboard is a club. A deadly weapon is anything designed, intended, or by its actual use is being employed as a deadly weapon. That is a device or contrivance capable of rendering serious bodily injury or harm or death.
Yeah, because he said he was holding like a baseball bat.
What, 3 or 4 pounds? You know what your classic wooden club, cudgel, or mace weighed that they used to use back when? About 2.5 pounds. It'll kill you real quick.
Yeah, he said he was using like a baseball bat, like he was swinging that skateboard like it was a baseball bat.
More people are killed by baseball bats than guns, particularly these aluminum softball bats.
Oh yeah. It's like you kill somebody with an icicle.
It's an excellent club. Al Capone was known to favor baseball bats for killing folk. He
had a guy
one up in a banquet at a hotel.
He had a guy, Al Capone did, a bodyguard named Tony Accardo. They used to call him Joe Batters because he used to use baseball bats all the time. He got I think he got a grandson and a great-grandson in the NFL right now. Yeah. But he was a Chicago crime boss, Tony Accardo.
Look,
okay.
See, politics is about serious business. Politics keeps people from getting killed, or it causes people to be killed. Clausewitz, Prussian General Clausewitz, von Krieg, or on war. And he said, war is but the ultimate extension of the political process. War being primarily a political instrument. One should exhaust all nonviolent political instruments before one resorts to the instrumentality of war. Black folk, we need to understand that we're too much into our emotions, likes and dislikes. It ain't got nothing to do with like and dislike. It ain't got nothing to do with emotion. It's got to do with cold, rational, logical, reasonable, analytical manipulation, sometimes for the good of the people, oftentimes not. Now, if you want to see politics raw, go to the Memphis City Zoo and spend a week, couple hours a day for 5 days when you get a week off.
One of the best zoos in the country.
Yeah, and watch the chimpanzees or the baboons, and you will see raw politics. They do favors, they cut undercover deals, all kind. It's about power. But you know what? The primary point is that too many politicos and others forget. In their native habitat, when the shit hits the fan, guess who's supposed to be between the leopard and the rest of the pack or the troop? It's the leader. So you fight, put your life on the line, get in situations where your rivals may kill you or cripple you. And what you're trying to get? To be the first one between the danger and the people that are the group that you lead.
Wow.
That's a primate characteristic. In other words, I'm fighting you for the privilege and the honor of being the first to die.
Hey everybody, this is Brother Ron. I am asking you all to do me a big favor. Think about supporting the We All Be movement. Your donation is tax deductible. The We All Be Group Incorporated is a recognized 501c3. And I'm just asking you all because I want to keep on bringing y'all quality work through the way that I know how to do best. And I'm going to sing my praises and toot my horn. A lot of y'all were not hip to Dick Gregory until Brother Ron brought him on the We All Be platform, until that Django review we did. Y'all seen another side of Judge Joe Brown, and Judge Joe Brown's message has been amplified. But it was We All Be that brought Judge Joe Brown to y'all back in 2014. And so many others. And we covered so many things. So help us out so we can help you all. Peace.